Well, one of the other good things about Texas is that it's one of the states that leads the nation in terms of being able to build homes, not just in terms of absolute number or volume, but also in terms of time or lack of
This
delay.
has been, I think, a big year. I mean, a lot of changes are coming our way. What type of things are you seeing in the finance industry? We've seen some big things from Dow Jones, just all kinds of stuff happening.
Well, we've seen a lot of volatility recently, and that's to be expected, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty. And we had a lot of uncertainty, especially before the election. But after the election, we saw this big rally, right? The Trump rally, the Trump trades, um, Bitcoin and crypto taking off. A lot of tech companies, specifically ones that the market's perception was that they were being hindered by regulation. So Tesla is a really good example. I think they had some of the best monthly performance in November and December. But um, after that, all eyes were on the Fed, and all eyes have been on the Fed because the Fed is kind of um, the market is kind of spoiled by the Fed because the Fed comes to save the day every time the market takes a dive. And even though the Fed cut rates, which was widely expected, almost a given if you look at the way that the market was betting in the futures market, and then the market sold off afterwards. And why? And it's because, again, the market is spoiled. And the Fed said, yeah, we'll cut a little bit today. Don't get used to it. We're probably not going to do much of it next year. Spoiled.
So these things, like why they might look like a temporary plus or something, it's gonna in the end, it's gonna end up biting you in the butt, so to say.
Well, I wish it made that much sense. But actually, Melissa, it's as simple as this. If you remember um, the subprime crisis, the great financial crisis, it has different names, but one event that a lot of professionals that were covering this space can remember is, I think it was September 15th, the Lehman moment. Remember when Lehman went under and it was not saved, unlike Bear Stearns, right? So just for our viewers and listeners, trouble started when house prices peaked 2006, 2007. That's when you started noticing things in the subprime market, but it was people still did not realize the full impact. They did not realize that it was gonna be kinda like a domino effect. And when it hit Wall Street, the investment banks, starting with Bear Stearns, there were basically the rescues, the bailouts, right? And they kept happening. And the biggest names in finance ended up being either swallowed up or married to another name until Lehman got in trouble. And then they basically said, GFY, right? I'll let you decide if that means good for you or the other thing, but they were not saved. And that's when all hell broke loose. And that created a bigger domino effect. And I mean, like, I don't know if you could tell from my hesitation, but that was a scary moment for I think a lot of people that were not only in finance, but just involved in a major organization that was being impacted. And any major organization is impacted because even if you don't work on Wall Street, you're still going to need funding and you're still going to need access to credit. And all that kind of stopped right there. I think I've been talking too much, so I'll take a bit of a
No,
break.
no, that makes a lot of sense. And I know now we do have, on a more localized note, I saw the story, Governor Greg Abbott's ambition that he wants the Lone Star State. He's saying that Texas's economy could surpass France. How is this going to happen? What do you think? What do you think about this statement?
I love it, and and I'm glad you asked me, and I'll tell you how it'll happen. It'll happen the way that it's happening, and let me tell you why I say happening. On a per capita basis, Texas already outproduces France, okay? Europe, man, it's a different mindset. I get it, it's the old world, it's beautiful and all this, but every once in a while, man, you gotta go back to work, and, they don't work as hard, they don't work as often, and they certainly are not allowed to work as creatively, as fast. There's a lot of roadblocks, but the culture, people in France will probably claim to be happier than we are. That's because people over here, I mean, a lot of them living in $1 million house and figure out a way to be unhappy. That's not America's fault. That's that person's fault. There are just as many people that are um, living in an apartment that they're happy because they know that one day they're going to live in a better situation, right? So a lot of it is just really mindset. Is the glass half full or is it half empty? I'm going to take a sip from this half full glass. Pardon me. But here's how they're going to do it. They're going to deregulate. They're not going to re-regulate. They're going to not tax the hell out of the most productive members of society. They're going to continue to grow the industries that have a synergy or a natural inclination and alignment with the resources that Texas has. And Texas has so many resources, not just natural, but I would also say in terms of human talent, HR talent. And that's growing too, right? Because California is scaring the hell of everybody and anybody that is of a productive mindset, that believes in um, the fact that merit should be rewarded over pigment.
And that do you think it's also gonna be like the housing affordability, some of those are they gonna play a factor in helping Texas kind of lead economically?
Well, one of the other good things about Texas is that it's one of the states that leads the nation in terms of being able to build homes, not just in terms of absolute number or volume, but also in terms of time or lack of delay, right? Because what people don't understand is that the housing crisis, it's two things. It's inflation, yes, but it's also overregulation. So typical home in America costs about $425,000, something to that effect. But about $100,000 of that cost is regulatory burden that is borne by the developer and the construction companies. If we can get rid of that, think about, I mean, since Biden took over, cost of living has gone up by about 40%, and shelter costs have gone up by at least a third. Well, this would be one way, if we could get rid of that regulatory burden, to almost immediately bring down the cost by double digits. So it's a great idea, and more states should kind of follow in the footsteps of Texas and Florida. Go
In doing
Gators.
that. That makes sense, and I know also SpaceX and Elon Musk, who you were mentioning before, he's kind of adding to that economical, drive and push in Texas. I know he's trying to get approval right now to take the Starbase site and make that into a new city, so that's pretty exciting.
I think that's fascinating. I think that it's a good idea. And to your point, I doubt there's another human being on the planet that adds more economically or otherwise um, to to our world and to our modern life. So yeah, so the story is that they're going to use that area, which they refer to as the Starbase. They refer to it as that because that's the head of the manufacturing and the production and the testing, and of course, that's gonna require a tremendous, amount of talent, and those talented individuals need not only a place to rest, but to do the other things that you do, live, work, eat, play, right? Hopefully read. I mean, they're probably reading enough if they are working at SpaceX. But yeah, I'm still learning more about it. I think it's a fantastic idea, and it just shows this is a way for Texas to show another example of leading by example, meaning approve it, right? Similar to what DeSantis did, um, um, or is doing in Florida. But other states that are getting in the way of growth. So of course, California comes to mind, New York comes to mind, Illinois comes to mind. I just hope and pray for their citizens that they kind of get the wake up call, right? But I'm not going to hold my breath. What do you say?
Yeah, that's true. And they start to kind of ease up on those regulations and things that I know it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but we'll see.
Right.
But I know New York, yeah, New York too. I mean, they're having a lot of things going on with, the mayor. There's all this stuff that's happening in defunding, we have everything from defunding the police,
Don't
both
ride
areas.
the subway, please.
Yes, I know. And I know another thing too for homeowners and just, the cost of living, we're seeing home insurance is continuing to rise. And that's, across the board. Maybe, I mean, Florida's probably getting hit pretty good too because of the hurricanes. But how are inflation and the regulation fueling this? Because a lot of people are like, why are they allowed to just raise these insurance rates and we can't stop it?
This is, I think, one of the most important and least discussed issues, as it relates to not just the housing market, but as it relates to really um, cost of living in general and the economy in general. And so, what's happening is a very dangerous, powerful, and accelerating trend of insurance outpacing almost every other single cost that we have. And a great example of that, I think this was in the Wall Street Journal, perhaps less than 72 hours ago, for the first time, I think, in the nation's history, the cost of homeowners insurance, is in many cases, uh, outpacing the mortgage. And this is not just due to inflation, but it's also due to uh, regulation, as you said. And specifically, I think it has to do with tort reform. Now, without getting into the legal weeds, full disclosure, I'm not an attorney. So you're not allowed to dislike me for that reason. I'm sure you can think of other ones. But my point is this: if everybody's allowed to sue for even the smallest thing and without a repercussion, I say without repercussion because in most major economies all over the globe, if you are trying to sue someone and you are in the wrong and you should not have sued that person, you're going to have to eat the attorney's fees of both sides. That is not true in America. And that's one of the reasons why everything costs so much in America, like housing, like healthcare, like education, like everything.
Right. Yeah, because the doctor, like, that makes sense because, like, a physician's office or whatever, they have to protect themselves against not only, you know, like, lawsuits that are like, something that they did wrong, but ones that, they didn't do anything and they still are gonna have to be so they would have to eat the cost basically and not the person who did that?
Exactly. So, in other words, everybody has to be ready for a gigantic legal bill because you have to protect yourself. And that's why you see so many settlements because people know that, wait a minute, even though I didn't do anything wrong, I still have to eat all these attorney's fees and I don't get reimbursed for that. And so it's cheaper and I save time, which is actually the real currency, isn't it? Right? Like all this talk about equality. There's only one equality. If we're blessed, then we'll have 24 hours tomorrow. But time is way more valuable than any other kind of fiat currency. Um, so I digress, but I'm not trying to hate on lawyers, okay? I think it's very important to understand the law, but I think it's very important for regular citizens to be taught that too. So, we've talked a lot before about financial literacy. I think we also need to have a discussion about legal literacy. A lot of people are getting in trouble because they don't know that they broke the law. They don't know what the law is. Why don't we teach the law in school? Maybe you could start at an early age. Why are we learning about Pythagorean theorem and we don't know what rules we might be about to break or could break? It's not as difficult of a solution as people will make it sound, especially the teachers unions. Of course, they'll come back with, "Oh, we need more money for that." No, you don't. No, you don't. Look at your phone. Look at YouTube. Okay, you don't need more money for that. You need less money for that. I think I'm going off on a tangent here.
But no, but what you're saying makes sense, like, we need to kinda, like, instead of, like, over-regulating in every way, even in, like, with the schools and stuff like that, go back to the basics and start teaching some of that basic, just not common sense, but things that we need to know to, like, live in everyday society,
Yeah, the things that
right
will
now.
be most impactful, right? Like, so we could start with our health, right? We could start by teaching about, well, these are good foods and these are fake foods, right? Sitting on your ass all day, no bueno, right? Uh, get up and move around. Um, it's not that difficult. And what I mean, I heard my niece and nephew are apparently learning something called new math. Melissa Bill, this made me so angry. Are you familiar with this
I
concept?
think I've seen some of it, yes.
What was wrong with the old math?
I know, it's a long way around to get to the same solution is what I've noticed. I don't know.
I'm doing fine with the old math. I don't know. I guess that's another topic, but maybe we can pencil that in. Let's talk about the state of education one day, if you
Absolutely.
dare.
Yes, absolutely. And as we get ready to head into 2025, any other finance, outlooks or anything that you wanna kind of bring up predictions about what we might see?
Sure, let's kinda do like the whole, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, right? So, what's good? Well, I think what's good is the confidence and the current trends. You're gonna see a lot more deals. I think that you're gonna see a lot more hiring, consumer spending already trending very well. So what's bad? Well, what's bad is that inflation is still too high, okay? So the cost of living is not gonna come down anytime soon, okay? So you have to really think about growth versus trying to, slash uh, expenses. You can only slash expenses so much. Eventually, you're gonna, you cut so much fat, you're gonna hit bone, so to speak, right? So then, oh well, what's ugly? Well, what's ugly is the amount that we have to repair with our nation. Luckily, I think the new administration, that's something that they're going to target immediately, and I think they're going to do it in a very effective regard. So what's beautiful? What's beautiful is the opportunity, the fact that America is going to be great again. America is back, baby. It's a fantastic time. It's an important time. I'm glad to be alive, and I'm honored to be on your podcast.
Oh, we're happy to have you back all the time. So that's definitely an open invitation.
Thanks.
And I know, I guess one way to look at it is that we have up to go, hopefully. We got one way to get better, as far as our economy and job growth and just the cost of living, hopefully will improve. Well, I appreciate you joining us again and definitely we'll have you back on maybe to talk about the education situation at another time and what they need to be kind of implementing so that our kids have a little bit more insight on, what, as far as finance, a little bit of legal, what they're expected to do as grown up and citizens. So I think that's important.
Exactly, and you know what I'll do? I'll go for a run before we do that, so I'll calm down, but we'll make it real simple. It's just like Benjamin Franklin used to say, what do we want in society? Healthy, wealthy, and wise. That's what we all want. Doesn't matter what skin color we are or what language we speak.